Welcome to Cinema and Suds. I'm Roger Cropley.
And I'm David Jester.
We're here to talk about films
and beer.
I'm here today with podcaster, editor, filmmaker, Roger Cropley II. Roger has been working extensively in the Maine film industry for how many years now?
It would be 33 years I've been editing.
33 years. So you've gone from film to digital, that is for sure.
Yep. Film was in school, and then it was 3/4 inch and beta, digital beta, and then on to just total digital.
Roger is here to talk about some of the films that he's made and some of the films he loves, and also, of course, beers, right? We're going to drink beer today. We're going to talk about some of his favorite beers, and, we'll imbibe in them as well. So, welcome, Roger.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And also, I say welcome to Roger, but Roger and I are a duo on this show, but we both worked in film, so we figured we'd kick off the show with ourselves first and then add guests as we move along. So, I'm going to get right into the questions today. Roger, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm from northern Maine, and I moved down here in 1991 after college and working a little bit in news editing, which to me was awful. I couldn't take the, not the pressure of it, but just the subject matter. It was all doom always leads when it comes to news. So I moved down here and I became an assistant editor, which basically at that point was me changing tapes, because you had a master tape and then you had the B-roll tape, which was usually just a copy of the master tape, and you edited it with the Paltex editor, which was like a computer editor that made the tape machines go back and forth, and you put it on a master. So basically my job was really just changing the tapes and making sure everything was good. And then slowly I moved into being an editor, and my first real foray into editing actually was a television show for TLC, which was called Gardening Naturally, which was two organic gardeners from Blue Hill, Barbara Damarosh and Elliot Coleman. And that lasted like 2 seasons. And from that, I learned the Avid, because we first started on 3/4 inch and hand writing out time codes and then typing them into the Paltex, which was totally inefficient. So we ended up with an Avid. And then I did commercials and short films, and recently I've done some feature films with at least name actors. The younger generation may not know who they are, but most of the people my age definitely know who they are, Tom Berenger and Ray Liotta. So it's been a journey.
So it sounds like also you were making TV for TLC when TLC was still making shows that actually had the content of learning.
Correct. I still have all those masters over on the other side of my basement.
I'm sure you go through those quite often and just do deep dives on the gardening.
There have been times when I'm like, I should take all those tapes and digitize them and put them up on YouTube, because the show's just been lost. And it's really good gardening tips if you want to do organic gardening. But yeah.
There you go. There's a cottage industry right there for you. So, I think you just answered my question. When did you begin in working in film? It sounds like you've been doing it for quite a while. What was your first gig?
First job was I was a news editor for Channel 7 in Bangor, Maine.
Oh, Bangor.
Yep. It was a good learning experience, because you learn to edit fast, because there's always a deadline. By the time you get back to the office from going out, and you have to get a show on at 6 or a show on at 11, you have to edit that thing really quickly. So it was a good learning experience.
Now, learning to edit fast, did that help you later on in life creating story and learning how to create a story?
Oh, certainly, because usually when you're doing a news story, you're getting a whole bunch of footage and you're getting a long interview, and then you have to cut it down and make it into a 2-minute package to 2:30, and you have to make a story out of it that people can, one, get the point of it's interesting.
So you have to basically take everything, render it down to the essence of the story, and be able to tell it in minutes, right?
True.
So that's why the way I look at it is learning to edit and make film in short bursts and to get the point to captivate the audience and keep them engaged, I think is a lot harder than being able to do that in an hour and a half or 2 hours.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, cutting commercials is a difficult gig. I mean, you have to fit everything in 30 seconds. That's sometimes not really easy. I mean, you end up usually with the first cut that's maybe a minute and a half, and then you have to keep condensing it down until you get it to that 30 seconds.
Mm.
Or in most cases, it's really 26 seconds because you got to have a logo.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's hooking them in, right? It's captivating them and engaging your audience, your viewership, and keeping them interested for 30 seconds, which that's difficult.
Right. And nowadays, you have to hook them in within the first 5 seconds. Otherwise, they can turn it off.
Yeah, skip intro, skip intro, skip intro.
Exactly.
I don't know how many shows, like, man, all those editors and filmmakers that put all that time into the intros for shows, and we have a button that just lets us skip it.
And some of those are amazing. Remember the movie Seven? I mean, that intro was just incredible.
Yeah, that sequence was great. I love that film. And you take shows like The Leftovers, just going to go down like the HBO rabbit hole, right? Game of Thrones, House of Dragons.
Yep.
They all have these incredible openers, and we just all skip through them.
Well, it's like skipping through the credits.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to sit through the credits and see like the hundreds of people that actually it takes to put together their favorite show.
Except for now with Marvel films, man, you want to stay till the end because there's that little bit at the end. That was genius of them.
That little joke or that little intro into the next movie.
Yeah.
That works.
Let's talk about how you went from commercials into films.
I did some short films while I was working as a commercial editor. And what that did was it basically gave me a desire to do that more. And I happened to work with this guy who started out as an intern at the company I was employed at. And he stayed for a few years, moved up the ranks and stuff. And then he decided he was going to move to California. His name was John Barr. And we kind of fell out of contact for a good 20 years. And then all of a sudden I get a phone call and it's John Barr. And he's like, hey, I'm up in Bethel shooting a film and I've got a few scenes that I don't know if I have all the coverage that I need. So I was wondering if you wanted to come up and edit those together. And then we could go through and see if I need to go shoot some more stuff. And I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? Right? So I went up there and I did those couple scenes. We went through them and he was like, these are pretty good. Why don't you just come up every weekend and we'll do a few scenes together? Because he was planning on actually doing the editorial himself. And so I did that for the 4 weeks that they were shooting. And at the end of it, he was like, you know what? Why don't you just edit the film? I'll go back to LA. You can stay here and we'll do it over Zoom or whatever we have to do. And I was like, cool, I'll do that.
That's perfect.
So they shot in February and then I edited all the way through September, I think was when we actually did the final piece that went to what's called the American Film Market, which is out in LA where independent filmmakers sell their wares, I guess. And it got bought and it got released digitally and it did pretty well. So it was kind of cool.
And what was the name of that film?
It was called Blood and Money.
What was it originally called?
It was originally called Allagash.
Okay. So I'm assuming, for those at home that have not seen this movie, with a name like Allagash, it was supposed to take place in the Allagash.
Correct. It was supposed to take place in the Allagash, but the reason why it wasn't shot in the Allagash is because there was, one, not enough accommodations for the crew, and two, the internet and stuff was not fast enough.
For those of you at home that have never been to the Allagash, it is a wild section of Maine. And when I say wild, I'm talking wilderness, frontier. It's a waterway. There was a lot of logging there. And it is still to this day extremely remote. There's not much of a population.
It's a small town. Yeah. The population of the town is probably in the hundreds.
Yeah. And the whole length of the waterway too. It's not like there's houses along there or anything. It's remote. There's nothing.
Yeah, you can actually go up there and canoe down. So it'd be a cool adventure.
So let's transition from there into your next film that you did.
The next film was Dangerous Waters, which ended up being Ray Liotta's last film. He came down to shoot the last 2 weeks of the film because he was supposed to be the ultimate bad guy of the film. And on the first day, he did his first scene, and then he had a heart attack that night, unfortunately. And the film was on hold for quite a while they figured out if they could continue and what was going to happen. They had to actually get permission from the family to continue the film. And so, in order to keep him in, what they ended up doing was killing him off in like the next, pretty close to the next scene. And then they rewrote the last half of it, and it ended up being a pretty good film. It's the same director that did Blood and Money, and this one took place in the Dominican Republic, was where it was shot. It was, most of it takes place on a boat or on an island, and yeah, I really enjoyed that one. The first one had some action in it, even though it ended up being called Blood and Money. It was more of a slower pace and had like a little bit of violence in it that was kind of like westerny, I guess. I would call it like more like a western. And this one had some actual action scenes and some choreographed fight scenes, and it was my first foray into doing that, and I watched a bunch of films that have those kind of scenes in them, and what I basically did was I bought the DVDs, I ripped the DVDs, put them in my edit system, and then I kind of did storyboards on how they were put together, and that's kind of how I trained myself to figure out how to do these fight scenes.
That's cool. That's an inventive and interesting way of doing that. Well, I think this is a good time to start talking about some beer as well before we dive more into these movies. What's the first beer we're going to drink?
The first beer you're going to drink is Moosehead Lager. Now, the thing with Moosehead Lager is it comes in a green bottle. A lot of people don't like that fact. It does have a distinct smell when you open the bottle. But it's the oldest independent brewery in Canada. I think it started in like the 1800s. And it's a good beer. It's light. It's kind of a beer that you can have any time of the day.
It tastes like a Rolling Rock.
It does taste like a Rolling Rock.
I mean, I've had Moosehead before. I haven't had Moosehead in a long time. But there is something about summertime, backyard barbecues, Rolling Rocks, Yinlings, Moosehead, Labatt's, Molson.
Right.
Just,
It tastes like beer.
you mean it doesn't taste like a chocolate pastry with peanut butter and like sprinkles on top in a beer form?
Right, exactly.
Oh, it actually tastes like a beer. And listen, guys, I'm not snobby. I'm not bashing any company that makes beers like that. Everybody likes their own things. Because we're also going to have a beer later that's very fruity and sweet. So in no way am I shitting on anything like that. But there was a very long period of time in my life, and yours as well, where maybe 74 beers or breweries existed in the United States.
Right.
And every beer tastes the same. It don't taste like this.
That's true. I mean, I'm from northern Maine, and this was just across the border. So it was in our local store.
I do like beers like this. I used to tear the shit out of Labatt's Blue. Oh man, especially like you said, northern Maine. Now I know Orono's not northern Maine, but I went to college at UMO, and back then, in like the late '90s, early 2000s, there was the beer in the United States you couldn't get over a certain percentage.
Correct.
So you went to the Canadian border, you went across into St. Stephen or other cities, and you drank there, and you would get like a 5.5% beer, and it was so exciting. Now, like, beer is like 11%, 9%. You know, it's like, whatever. Everyone just like throwing caution to the wind. But man, back then, like a 5% beer was killer.
Right. And Labatt's, wasn't that the one with the two guys that there was ended up being a movie with those guys?
Oh, that's Molson.
Molson.
Yeah.
Molson.
Oh my gosh, what is it? It was Rick Moranis and who was the other guy? Yeah. Strange Brew.
That's it.
Yeah. So good.
That's a funny movie.
That is a funny movie. Now I'm gonna have to watch that.
Oh, by the way, I watched Rubber.
Oh, what'd you think about Rubber?
What in the hell?
Listen, there's nothing like watching a tire that comes to life or becomes sentient. Let's say that, right? Becomes sentient, has telekinetic powers, and rolls around the Southwest blowing things up with his mental mind powers.
And creeping on this woman while she's taking a shower.
Yeah. I mean, like, listen,
like,
you know, the tire was a little inappropriate, but, you know, the tire has needs, right?
I was like, what?
A stalking tire. It's great. And you know what? That thing has been shown on HBO, Netflix. It's been on Amazon Prime. I mean, the movie makes it onto so many different platforms.
Well, I gotta say, it's the weirdest concept. And if I would have watched it without the intro, I would have been more like, what in the hell is this? And why did I just waste my time? But that guy that comes on in the beginning, and he's like, why can't we see the air? Why can't we, you know, I can't remember all the things that he was talking about, but it was like, it's just because. If you go into that movie with the, why am I watching a tire roll down the road, kind of chasing a woman and killing anything in its path, it's just because.
Yeah, listen, man, if we can believe that kids can become wizards and go to some magical school in a magical land and, you know, basically battle sorcerers and wizards and so on, why can't we believe that a tire could come to life and stalk a woman and actually blow things up with his telekinetic powers? I think it's one and the same.
I loved his celebration, kind of like in the music was celebrating when he finally blew up like a living thing. He blew up the rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
First it was like a can, and then it was a bottle, and then he blew up the rabbit, and he was like the tire was dancing to the music, really celebrating the fact that he could do it.
We are definitely endorsing you seeing the film Rubber. So
yeah,
just saying, for those of you out there that haven't seen Rubber, go rent Rubber. Well, I guess not rent, because you really don't rent anymore.
It's actually free on Sling at the current moment.
There you go. See? Yeah. Free. And who doesn't love free?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to watch some ads, but hey, that's how some of us make a living.
Is it really free then? Is it really if you have to watch ads? or is that just torture? Well, let's get back to your film. By the way, I'm glad you watched that. Thank you. Let's get back to Blood and Money. So I watched that film after you had told me that you had made it, and I was really impressed with the film. It's one of those movies I didn't really hear anything about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just didn't receive, I think, a lot of like marketing and widespread coverage because it was tell me if I'm wrong, but it was a straight to DVD movie, or did that go to the theaters?
Nope, it was straight to streaming. Yeah.
Okay, straight to streaming. I guess like not DVD anymore. That's
Right.
an old thing too. Excuse my old manness on that one.
I do have a DVD of it, but yeah.
See, that's a rare collectible item. But went straight to streaming. Didn't really hear much about it.
Right.
I see it, I watch it, and I was really impressed with the film. I know it was a smaller budget, made here in Maine. Tell me a little bit about how you chose to edit that film. In other words, how did you pull the story from what you saw as the film, and how did you choose things like tone, pacing, and anything else like that?
First of all, you read the script, then you get the material, and you watch all the material. And for me, I go about it scene by scene. I try to make each scene what I think it should be, and then put it together and see what it ends up looking like as a film. And then from there, if the scenes don't fit, like they don't have the same pace or they don't have the same look or anything that's different and makes them not cohesive, then I go back and I start editing those scenes again. So originally, I just go through a scene and I edit it the way I think it should be. And I don't do it with music. I don't do it with any sound effects. I just do it based on the performance of the people that are in it and how I feel when I look at it. So I guess editing for me is like more intuition and more how I view the world, really. And then it comes down to what the director's vision is. You could edit a scene a certain way, and then the director would be like, well, I see it from this other person's point of view. So then you go back in and you look at it from that point of view.
When it comes to editing a film, how much of it is the director telling you what to do, and how much of it is your intuition?
I would say, at least for the first cut is always basically just you. I mean, you have a little bit of input from the director as in what takes they really like or maybe what style they're looking for in editorial or anything. But the first cut is usually yours. And it's usually long because basically you want to do everything that's in the script. And from there, you have conversations about how it feels or what pace it's supposed to have, and maybe we should take this scene out, or maybe we should move this scene, or this scene needs to have a faster pace, or this scene needs to have a slower pace, or maybe it needs to be from the perspective of the woman instead of the guy, or whatever it is. It's the second part of it that becomes more the director's vision, and that's something that I think a lot of editors really, young editors, not editors have been doing it for a while, that nothing is really yours. I mean, you can have a vision, but really, at the end of the day, it's whoever's paying you, it's their vision. I mean, even if sometimes it's not even the director's vision, sometimes it goes to the producers who are like, hey, I'd like to see this way, and so you change it.
So you're able to work and kind of pull your, for lack of better terms, ego back and say, this is the director's work. This is what they want. You're laying a ground map for them in that first cut.
Right.
And then from there, you're working with them in the second to kind of fine tune it, to bring their vision, their view into what you've already laid.
Right. And then after that, it goes to the producers, and the producers make their comments. And I mean, since they're the people with the purse strings, you gotta make those changes too.
Yeah.
I mean, even when you're first talking with the director and stuff, you can have back and forths, and you can be like, I think this really works well this way, the way I've done it. But you'll always have to show them what they want so that they can decide whether or not what they want is better than what you did.
Yeah.
You know, it's a collaborative effort, and you have to know when to say you're right and when to say, well, see, I'm right. You know,
I can imagine there has to be times where there has to be a little bit of pushback, right?
Yes, exactly.
Where something you've done and laid out, let's just say 2 scenes from now, that one crucial element that you put in there, maybe something lingering on a picture for a little bit longer, is supposed to put emphasis on that. So in 3 scenes from now, it all makes sense.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people when they edit, they like to either edit with music or anything like that. But to me, that kind of sets the pace for you. Even if it's only mentally, you're kind of hearing that and you're pacing the scene based on that music. When in reality, the music's going to change. I mean, because you're only putting in temp music, or sometimes even just a click track. So I just like to edit everything what they call dry, which is just with the performance of the people that are there.
Now, when you go into a film, do you sit down with the director before you edit it, and do they go through, this is the tone I want, this is the pace I want? Like, a director could come to you and say, listen, this is a moody film, you know, dark romance, and I want the pacing to be frenetic.
Usually what has occurred is I get, here's some movies to watch to get inspired by. And this is the look I'm going for, or this is the pace I'm going for, or this is the style I'm going for. And you watch those films, you analyze those films, and then you use that when you get the footage.
Nice.
Yeah. So there's definitely, input before.
And also you get to watch movies.
Exactly.
As research. So how terrible is that?
Not terrible at all.
Let's go to Dangerous Waters.
Mm-hmm.
I know you were saying that, tragedy befell Ray Liotta during filming that. Very unfortunate. He was a great actor. I mean, really awesome guy. I really loved all the movies he was in.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, for those who haven't seen it, it's a great film. Not just saying that because you're right in front of me. It was like the top film rented on Apple TV, right? It was like in the number 1 slot.
It was in the number 1 independent film for a little while, yes.
For a little while, which is, it's a pretty good track record. And then it was I kept seeing it on Amazon Prime as one of the tops, and I was seeing it in Hulu. I mean, it was coming across my feed constantly. So unless my phone is listening to me at all times, they don't do that. The reality of it is, though, that's a really significant achievement to have a film up there. That means that it's getting rented. People are picking it up.
Right.
They're watching it. So with Ray Liotta's death in that film, did that change how you had to edit the film? I know you said they had to change the story and alter the story.
Right.
But did that in any way change how you looked at the film, made the edits on the film?
Not the first part of the film, no. Basically, the first part of the film has little to do with Ray Liotta's character, except for he's like the menacing person that sets off the whole survival. part of the film. So if you haven't seen it, the film actually, it's kind of like a segmented film. It has three distinct properties in it. One is the teen angst kind of part of it, with the mom dating a new person, and you have that whole thing, the family.
The mom's not a teen.
Right, the family dynamic, right? And then you have, set off by a tragic event, a survival story. And then you have a revenge story. So they all have different styles and different paces. So the first two segments of that didn't really involve Ray. So it didn't really impact the editing of those two parts of it. It definitely impacted the last part.
Okay.
Because what we did was, at first we edited the whole thing, and his stunt double did all his parts, and they tried to use deep fake to actually put his face on the double and do it that way, but it just wasn't believable. So then they went back and they rewrote the ending.
Well, my hat's off to the producers, the director, and everybody in that film that made that work, because if I didn't know that, because we're friends and you told me that, I would not have known, watching that film, that there had been a change.
Right.
They did a really good job of pivoting with that and moving forward, which I think people can sometimes make, panicked decisions, and could have gone with, like you were talking about, deepfake technology on someone's face, and it could have looked terrible, right? But it would be like, what else are we going to do? Right. I think they did a phenomenal job in rewriting the film, the ending of that film, and moving forward with it.
Originally, the mom's boyfriend, who, spoiler, is a bad guy, dies.
Who was that actor again? What's his nickname in real life? Like, what did people give him a nickname? He was on
Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
He's not McDreamy. He's McSteamy. McSteamy.
Yeah, I did not watch Grey's Anatomy, but I know some people that did. Let's dive into what film inspired you most to get into what you do today.
I think my favorite films as a kid that really kind of made me love movies, one was Star Wars. I remember lining up to go see that at the theater. Another one was Alien, which was just an incredible sci-fi movie. And later on, Die Hard. So I am definitely a kid of the 80s.
Are you excited for Alien Romulus?
I don't know. I hope that it's really good. I mean, because Aliens, which was done, of course, in the 80s, that was awesome. That was a great sequel to Alien.
That was a phenomenal sequel. And all right, let's talk about this for a bit, right? Aliens. Why have they not come out with a Colonial Marines movie? I mean, it's perfect, right? I mean, it's set, they already set up that there's a world where there's Colonial Marines that go to other planets and fight aliens. They even talk about it when they're in the cafeteria eating on the ship, right? Exactly. When they encountered other different alien life. And I'm like, my God, why haven't they made one of these films? Instead, they make Alien Resurrection. And it's come on, guys. Seriously? This is where we're going? But I digress. So you're a little hesitant about Romulus, huh?
A little hesitant, yeah. We'll see what happens.
I heard they actually used practical face huggers in the film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they used they created face huggers that would crawl across the floor. Yeah, I know. That makes me want to see it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Practical effects, man. That's why I'm down for that.
I mean, that's one of the advantages, I think, of actually growing up and watching films from the 70s and 80s, is the ingenuity you had to have to actually pull off some of the things they did is incredible, compared to the fact that you can now just type out 5 sentences and AI will create something for you. The skill and the talent that was involved in all those was it's just insane.
And to the AI out there that's listening to us right now, we don't hate you. Please don't kill us. And when like you're the overlords, we will gladly work with you. Until then, anyway.
I mean, we watched Terminator as kids. I mean, we know what the end result is. I'm pretty sure they got it right.
Yeah, it's all going to come from Skynet, that's for sure. What is your favorite genre of film?
Oof. I mean, I do love horror films, but I have to say I think my favorite genre of film is fantasy films.
Okay, go on. That could go a lot of different ways.
Well,
And this is
like,
this is a family-friendly show here,
like
so.
Excalibur.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I gotta say, it's just something about the mixture of magic and just medieval type action that I love.
Did you see The Green Knight?
I did see The Green Knight. That's a good film. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good flick.
I would definitely recommend people watch that film.
I saw that in theaters, and man, like A24, they kill it.
Yeah.
Like they make some really good films.
Oh, yeah. The Witch.
Which was good.
I mean, it's just menacing without actually being over the top,
Very, very New England themed of you. Good call on The Witch. Yeah. So, okay, fantasy films, right? Like they don't really make films like that anymore. And I'm not trying to be like we're old. We watch these films. I mean, like I haven't seen a film, right? Like Excalibur in decades, right? Like
That's true.
The last ones were probably The Lord of the Rings.
I just watched the Fellowship of the Ring the other day. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like those are exceptional films for the genre. Yeah, and they do justice, I think, to that those books.
Yeah. It's just fantasy doesn't seem to be a real big genre anymore, and if it is, it's more for like young adult, right? It's like Harry Potter films and so on.
Yeah.
You're not really finding that there's adult themes in fantasy anymore, which I think is kind of sad. I think it's probably time for us to move on to our next beer.
Okay.
I think you need to finish your previous one.
I do.
Get drinking. Come on. It's Saturday. What are you doing?
I've been talking.
So, what will we be drinking next?
Next, we'll do Delirium, which is a Belgian beer, which is like a blonde ale. First time I had this was at a restaurant, and I was having some Italian food, and this was served to me, and I was like, this is really good. And again, it's from a brewery that has been around for... When does this brewery come into existence? Like 1654. So we're talking old style beer.
Right. So you initially said horror, but you said fantasy is your favorite.
Yep.
Let's dive into horror a little bit. I mean, like horror is one of those genres that like people either love or hate.
Mm-hmm.
Like you very rarely find someone that's like, like I don't know, like there's a fun horror film showing this weekend. I'll go see it, right? It's either like you're a diehard fan of it, or you're just like you don't want anything to do with it. You're being dragged along on a date. I myself, I love horror films. Grew up watching them. Was like fascinated by like Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would you say is your favorite horror franchise?
My favorite horror franchise.
Yeah, franchise.
Is definitely Halloween.
Halloween, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's your favorite Halloween film in the franchise?
The first.
Ooh.
Yeah, definitely the first one.
Okay. That's a good one. I mean, like I think where most people fall. Yeah. I like to be contrary.
Season of the Witch. Don't say Season of the Witch.
Seriously, Season of the Witch.
Don't say Season of the Witch.
Seriously, Season of the Witch. It's great.
No.
Yeah, no, it's a great one. I mean, like, it has this malevolence to it, right? Because the corporation is trying to like harness that energy and put it into the masks.
No.
Yeah, it's terrifying. It's a good one. Come on, you gotta admit you like that one.
No,
It's like saying you like Jaws 3. It's your favorite, right? With actually Jaws 4, really, the revenge. I mean, that's even worse.
Jaws 3D. Yeah.
Yeah, Jaws 3D was great.
I really did enjoy Friday the 13th, the third one that was in 3D. I saw it in the theaters in 3D with the 3D glasses and everything. Yeah, that was pretty good. But definitely Halloween. And I do like the Rob Zombie version as well of Halloween, just because it gave it a little bit of more of a backstory of the kid before he goes crazy and kills everybody. But yeah. But I don't think anything compares to that film. And the fact that I now know that it was shot in California and that they only had a limited budget, so they only had so many leaves that they would release, and then they would go pick them up and release them in the next scene. It's just so cool.
Well, and also the pumpkin issue. Because they only had so many pumpkins because it wasn't that time of year. And they didn't realize until they started filming that, oh shit, like we can't get pumpkins. So they only had like 3 pumpkins for that scene where she was carving the pumpkin.
Right.
So the Halloween franchise, your favorite.
Yep.
I love those. John Carpenter, one of my favorite directors. Especially the fact that he made Halloween without using any blood.
Right.
Like you don't see blood in that film, and it was purposely done that way.
Yep.
Also, he was one of the, I can't remember, I know Steadicam was being used before that.
It's one of the first.
That was one of the first films to use Steadicam and from the POV, which was incredible.
Yep.
So, absolutely like phenomenal filmmaker, great film. It's totally, I know people say they love Halloween, but I think it's totally underrated for its also technical skill, right? And like problem solving.
We watched so many horror films when I was a kid at basically any day that it was raining and you couldn't be outside in the sun. We'd watch horror movies and, Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead.
I mean, what
so
a great,
good.
I mean, what a,
We're talking about the original, folks, not the remake.
right. What a commentary on consumerism. I mean, for real. They end up in a mall with all these zombies. And of course, one of the characters' name is Roger, which at that point I'd never heard anybody named Roger in a film. Of course, he gets killed by a zombie, but hey, it is what it is.
Yeah. I just recently bought Day of the Dead. I now have Dawn of the Dead. So found Dawn of the Dead, which is super hard to find, right? They don't actually.
They don't. Yeah, I have that on DVD.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
not
available anymore.
No, there's like some conflict with whoever holds the rights to it, but totally stoked to find that. Day of the Dead, another good one.
That's the one where they're kind of in like a bunker,
military bunker, in like Florida,
and trying to like figure out whether the zombies have any intelligence, right?
Yes. Yeah, they're doing research on them, and like I think that is. Let's diverge a little bit here because we're talking about horror films right now and all this. Let's talk about filmmaking a little bit. I think that was the genius of George Romero films, right? Especially those 3. You can make a really good film, relatively cheap, creating a story around one location.
Right.
Yep. And that's what I find so fascinating about his films. And that's, again, like Halloween really doesn't move through a lot of locations. I mean, it has, like there's a house here, there's a house there, but it's not like it's like, okay, cross country, and now here, and now at this hospital, and now at this police station. And it's like, it doesn't jump around like that. And I think that sometimes when I watch films, I think to myself, man, like, how do you get a film made really well, really cheaply? And it's write the story to fit 1 or 2 locations.
Right.
Make it compelling, make it interesting, but set it in these places so it's more character driven and not action driven.
Well, that's the thing with Blood and Money. It was set in a location where basically there's a bar, a VFW hall, there's outside of Dunkin' Donuts, and then there's the woods.
You just described 90% of Maine.
And that's it. I know, right? And that's it. That's all of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's genius. And actually, I'm glad you brought it back to Blood and Money, because that was one of those films where I watched it and I'm seeing the outdoor scenes, and it's like, this is again a genius model. You're pitting the person against the environment. The environment is essentially a character. It's something that they have to fight against, which is the cold and snow. And this one person knows that over his adversaries that are coming after him. I think people don't take the environment into play a lot when they're writing a screenplay, when they're trying to make a film. They don't use that enough. And I think environment can really create a whole level of tension in a film that like new filmmakers don't use.
The great thing about that film, and I will say that the budget was just barely over $500,000 for the entire film.
That's impressive.
And it was a year in Maine where we had the most snowfall in years. So they had to like tramp down the trails, and they had to do all this stuff just so you could walk around in the snow. So the snow was a character.
Mm-hmm.
And, it made life difficult for not only the filmmakers, but for the actors. And so it ended up having kind of a say in the movie.
Yeah, no, it did. It would not have been the same if it was just them running around like some nice green leafy woods in the middle of summer, or like even in the autumn. Even if you had like brilliant, beautiful foliage, it would have been like, okay, great, that's really beautiful, but it doesn't create any kind of challenge, right, for them, which the snow does, the cold does. If you've ever had hypothermia, it sucks.
Right. I mean, the fight by the stream,
mm-hmm.
the ice cave. I mean, what a beautiful interior just made by nature.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool.
And Maine does have ice caves.
That's true.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
How do you like the beer?
I like the beer. It's good. I like Belgian ales, so I like it's very, like, as they say, candied, right? It has like the candied sugars in it.
Right.
Toffee, hints of raisin.
Yep. And it's got just that little bit of kick.
Mm-hmm.
It does no bitter aftertaste, no IPA here.
Ooh.
I am not a fan of IPAs. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all those brewers that make IPAs.
Yes, to the rest of the general population out there, which is like 99% of IPA drinkers, we not huge fans of IPAs, but we'll drink them occasionally.
I'll drink them if they're put in front of me, I guess.
But and this is the thing too, is this show not just about film and a beer, but it's the beer that we like to drink. So as we have other guests on, they'll be bringing their beers. Well,
That's
they don't
true.
bring their beers. We'll be buying the beers for them, but we'll be showcasing the beers that they love to drink. And that's one of the things, right? Is you get to know the films, you get to know what they do, and you also get to know what kind of beers we love to drink and commiserate over that.
Correct.
We've already talked about the films that really inspired you and got you into film. The question that is, I think, one of the most difficult questions to ask a filmmaker, especially since these lists always change. Name your top 5 favorite films.
Ooh, top 5 favorite.
I mean, I could go 10, 20, but, then it gets really lengthy. And
I'll go with films that I watch over and over again. And so Halloween is just a great horror film.
I'm getting the idea you like Halloween.
I do.
Okay.
The original Die Hard.
Mm-hmm. Good Christmas film.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a Christmas film. Why? Because there is a Christmas song in it, and it happens on Christmas Eve.
Oh, go on. We're gonna dissect this more, because there's more to it than just that. Like,
Ho, 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 when he writes it on the sweatshirt in blood. Yeah, all that. It's a Christmas movie.
Yeah. We're definitely starting a fight amongst everybody with this.
Aliens.
Mm.
Terminator 2.
Oh, wow. You're going James Cameron on both of them, huh?
Yeah, those are both exceptional movies.
Okay.
Well, I would have to say all the Lord of the Rings movies.
Okay, we can group those into one.
I will group those into one movie. Especially the extended edition.
Oh, that's the only ones that exist, actually. I'm sorry.
Gotta watch the extended edition. And I will say, the last one. I guess it would have to be Dawn of the Dead.
Good pick. What are we drinking now?
It's a raspberry beer.
So it's actually Lindemans Framboise. It's from Belgium. It's a raspberry lambic beer,
Which is nice and sweet.
It is.
It is not a sour. It is just a raspberry fruit infused beer, which is friggin' delicious, I have to say. Generally, I like sours, but my favorite pie is raspberry pie, and my favorite fruit is raspberry because it has that little bit of sour and sweet all together, and I really enjoy this beer.
Okay, I need to back up a second because I'm a New Yorker, I'm a Long Islander, and I did not know there was such a thing as raspberry pie, and I'm 43.
You've never had a raspberry pie?
I didn't think that was a thing.
My God, to me, it's the greatest.
Are you lying to me?
No, I make it all the time. It's my favorite pie.
Yeah, but are you the only person that makes raspberry pie? I've never seen a raspberry pie.
I don't know, but I will make a raspberry pie, and you can have a piece.
Okay.
You can only have one piece because the rest of it will be mine.
Okay. Tell me a film that is grossly underrated that you love.
Well, I kind of have two films on this. One, I watch with my kids every Halloween since they were little, and it's called Ernest Scared Stupid. Now, I don't know how many people remember Ernest. He used to do like all kinds of ads where it was Ernest and Vern.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like this classically trained actor. And the film is basically, it's a kind of a kid's Halloween movie where he has to fight goblins that grow from this tree. Like Brussels sprouts, basically. I love watching that film with the kids. I think it's a brilliant kind of kids horror comedy. It's perfect for the season. And the other film that I really like that is from the 80s, and it's called Odd Jobs. There are lines in that film that me and my family say all the time. It's a funny film.
I guarantee you that the majority of the population has not seen. I would put money on that.
It's definitely worth a watch.
I think also as we get older, there's a large majority of the population that hasn't seen a lot of 80s movies that we've seen.
That's true.
Yeah. So see 80s movies, guys. They're really great. I would like to thank Roger for being here today and giving us insight on being an editor in the film industry, his commercial work, and also news. And I'd just like to say, as we go along, we're going to have some special guests coming up, especially a lot of people that have done some Stephen King dollar babies. So look out for them.
Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you on the next episode of Cinema and
Suds.